This is your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Friday, September 6. Thanks for joining us. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Barbados and the Caribbean must become more resilient, so declares Prime Minister Mottley as she announced that changes are coming to the way Barbadians construct buildings among the measures to boost the island's preparedness for disasters. Describing the scenes she witnessed firsthand in the northern Bahamas yesterday as horrific, she says Barbados must first ready itself by first building better.
We're moving in that direction, certainly with respect to the roofs and the stability, etc. Part of the problem is that the last government would have put in place the building code, but the legislation has never been passed to make it mandatory. We have a difficulty with a building code that requires everybody to go to a new building authority, put in an application, and then for the building authority to have to inspect things. What we are hoping to do is to work with the architects and engineers, because we also have people of practical affairs. As I said, almost every wooden house in every community in Barbados look like the next, not true? LA? They look like the next. So Bajans have used a few house designs as a model. And they've been trained to it. The carpenters know how to build that model. The masons know how to build that model. And on some instances, they can close their eyes and do it. So we get it. So we want to have the RFP, and Minister Payne is going to put out the advertisement after we meet with the architects and engineers. Our housing program, which we'll talk about another day, is going to be ramping up in a major way soon. But we're going to use that as well as the videos and the training sessions to be able to train Barbadians to a new norm.
Government will also be placing significant emphasis on cleaning up the country. Attorney General Dale Marshall says amendments are coming to health services regulations, which will see Barbadians facing penalties for failing to maintain their environs.
In the same way that if you don't pay your water bill, it'll be a charge on your land. If you don't pay your land tax, it'll be a charge on your land. We're not interested in criminalizing people. We just want to motivate them towards reasonable conduct for their own benefit and for the benefit of society at large.
Meanwhile, all systems are go for the Rise Bahamas Mediathon on Sunday at 3 p.m. Prime Minister Mottley is hoping the effort can raise $500,000, and she appealed to Barbadians to give generously to support the relief efforts in the Bahamas. She says her government will match the contributions of Barbadians.
This one is particularly special for us because Dorian started here. And we, more than anyone else, know, even more than the people in the Carolinas and elsewhere where Dorian has continued to go, that we got off virtually unscathed from Dorian. But if Dorian had hit us, imagine what each of us would have had to spend, all like now, to be surviving. And however little and however difficult it is for both individuals, and Jano, that I know, we can do a little something. We're in an IMF program, but my government has agreed that we will match whatever Barbadians put at the very least on Sunday. And therefore, I would like us to see at least $500,000. At least $500,000 donated by Barbadians on Sunday towards the people of the Bahamas.
In other news this Friday, the International Monetary Fund is again giving government the thumbs up for sticking to the targets of the Barbados Economic Recovery Transformation Program. The team wrapped up its visit to the island today, saying government was making good progress in implementing its ambitious economic reforms. The fund said that the government has met all targets at the end of June under the extended fund facility. It especially cited the primary surplus of 2.5% GDP in the first quarter, saying this bodes well for achieving government's primary surplus target of 6% GDP this year. It also noted that the international reserves were also well over program targets at the end of June.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional development, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis announced today that the government will provide free flights for residents of Abaco to relocate to New Providence. As he toured affected areas, the minister assured that the government was doing its best to respond to the challenges as he spoke to residents.
Bahamas will be moving in and out to remove you back to Nassau. There'll be no charge. Government will move you back and forth. You'll have accommodation for arranging accommodation for you so that you can be placed. But also, the Minister of Education is also organizing the schools for the children so that we can have their education continuous. But just be patient with us. We're trying to do our best and move you all out as quick as possible. Okay?
On the international scene, Robert Mugabe, the Zimbabwean independence icon turned authoritarian leader, today died at age 95. Mugabe had been receiving treatment in a hospital in Singapore since April. He was ousted in a military coup in 2017 after 37 years in power. The former president was praised for broadening access to health and education for the black majority, but his later years were marked by violent repression of his political opponents and Zimbabwe's economic ruin. Among the people of Zimbabwe, there were mixed reviews about his legacy.
He died at a hospital in Singapore. Mugabe ruled for decades, first as prime minister, later as president. But by the time he was deposed in the military coup in 2017, a man once seen as a democratic freedom fighter was reviled as a dictator by many of his own people. We begin with this report from Hoda Delamid.
The liberator who turned into a tyrant, the man who destroyed a promising country through his determination to cling on to power. Adored by some, but in the end despised by many in Zimbabwe, although widely admired across Africa as a hero who fought colonialism and stood up to the West. 1965, Rhodesia and Ian Smith's white settlers declared independence from Britain, an event that defined Robert Mugabe's life and still haunts his country. The black majority resisted racist rule in the cities and out in the countryside, where a vicious bush war raged for years. Robert Mugabe, a teacher turned activist, emerged from prison as an articulate leader of the independence struggle.
We started the war in order to get our country.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Fernella Wedderburn. Good evening.